Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Heat Press for Profit podcast. My name is Jenna Sackett. I'm going to be your host today for the topic at hand, and that is hot tips for festivals and event selling. This is something that we get questions about a lot, and something that I have a unique hand in at stalls. It's something a lot of fun, something I'm very passionate about. And so I'm really excited to have I'm super excited to be joining you guys for this particular topic. As I mentioned, this is the Heat Press for Profit podcast. So for new listeners, welcome. And for those of you that are joining us every week at 3 p.m., welcome back. This is episode 105. And we are doing the Heat Press for Profit podcast so that we can ignite ideas, help brands elevate, and really just help future proof what the custom apparel industry is. And so we're coming to you live. So for those who are joining and watching live, I appreciate when you guys comment in. Let us know where you are joining from, what tips and tricks you guys might have, what questions you may have. So definitely comment in. We love to keep this super interactive and fun. We are joining on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, and more. And if you're tuning in right now, as I mentioned, please drop a comment. We love to see who you are and where you're watching from. If you happen to be catching this later on your favorite podcast platform, that is great. Make sure you subscribe, though. We want to make sure you come back and join us for more tips and tricks and just general conversation on what's hot and what's not in the industry sometimes, right? And we're dropping fresh content every single week. And hey, if you are serious about taking your heat printing hustle to the next level, head on over to Facebook because we have an awesome Facebook group that is dedicated to exactly that. It is called Heat Press for Profit. It is a great community. There are a bunch of industry pros in there. We swap ideas and we get inspired by fellow decorators. So really great community to be a part of, right? So that's over on Facebook. Again, that is the Heat Press for Profit group. All right. Let's go ahead and dive in today's topic because it is a good one. And I actually just wrapped up a call just before this podcast happened from a local business here in Austin named Rumi Lane. And this is a contact that came from Mark Schwarb. Shout out Mark Schwarb over there in Florida. It's just so crazy that he was talking to somebody that's here in Austin and we were able to connect. But the reason we connect is because this is such a hot topic, right? We are talking about event selling, festivals, event printing, live printing. It is something that is making a wave in the industry, and it's really easy with heat pressing, right? So let me slow down a little bit. I feel like I'm so excited to get to this topic that I'm not breathing. So why events? Why do festivals work? Why does live event printing matter, right? The reason is because when you go to an event, you're pretty excited to be there. You paid money, or maybe it's a free ticket, whatever it might be. It was an event that you were excited to go to. And that's powerful as a vendor or as a printer because you're already engaging with people who are excited to be there and excited to see what you're doing at this event, right? This could be a sporting event. It could be a fair. It could be a concert, right? There are a lot of events happening that we can take advantage of and be a piece of or have a piece of, right? And so they're powerful because you're getting face to face with real customers that are excited to be there and excited to engage. The beauty of this is we're taking it outside of that online atmosphere, right? We say this time and time again. We see everyone, post COVID is just kind of like, we're just excited to get back into events and be around people. Everyone was so online and virtual for so long that it was just kind of like transactional and not emotional, right? And that's something that I focus on a lot in my teaching whenever it comes to creating merchandise that matters. It's something that I learned from Jay Bassell, who is a powerful speaker a lot at trade shows. If you guys have heard of him, he really gets behind being behind a product that is more meaningful instead of just transactional. And I think events is the perfect way to do that. Like I said, you're getting face to face with real customers. There's no algorithms, there's no ad spend. It's just people walking by, checking out your vibe, and buying on the spot if they want to, right? What I love about that too is you're getting instant feedback. Nobody's hiding behind a phone screen or a computer screen or a keyboard, right? They are getting to see in real time what products you're offering, and you get to see in real time what people love, right? What designs are they gravitating towards first? What sizes sell out? What gets people talking? So if you aren't sure about whether you want to get to event, maybe take it at that approach. Maybe you want to test out some new product and it's exclusive and it's exciting, right? There are a lot of great ways to start getting into events, and that's just something that I really like about it is I get to test at stalls new products and see in real time people's reactions to them. Do they want to buy it? Do they even like it? Right. So I think that that is a pretty incredible piece of why events and festivals work for this industry, right? And so people don't just buy a shirt or a hat or a hoodie, they buy a memory that comes with it. And so when I see brands that are popping up and doing this well, it really excites me because it gets people talking, it gets people excited. When you're printing live, it's kind of like that showstopper moment. Like, what's going on over there? They got to custom make that, right? They start asking questions. They want to know more about what you're doing. They want to know who you are as a brand. How can they work with you in the future, right? All around, the energy is pretty much just unmatched. You're not going to get that type of energy or that type of conversation through the computer, right? So if you're wondering if this is something that you should take a step towards and really look into, there are a phenomenal amount of people right in the Heat Press for Profit Facebook group that thrive in this space, right? And so get in there and ask questions. I see Skip Davis here just commented in. Skip, thanks for joining live. He is a great advocate for event printing and obviously like hat printing as well. He's pretty known for that. But just think about that. When people are at a festival or a market, they're in discovery mode, right? And so they want to find something cool, something they can't get anywhere else. If you guys are looking for inspiration or just want to know of a few brands that do this well, one off the top of my head is Only NY. They show up with new drops and it speaks directly to the audience, right? They know the audience well, they know what event they're getting into. And so they did like an NYC themed gear for the governor's ball, right? And people lined up for that exclusivity because they knew they could only get it at this event, right? So festivals, music, whatever the event may be, a governor's ball, for example, you never know what opportunity is out there, but it gets you in front of the right people and it is a great conversation starter. So, whenever my three takeaways for why events and why they work is because people don't just buy a shirt or a hat. Like I said earlier, they buy the memory that is connected to it. Another reason is your booth, right? And so your booth is kind of an extension of your brand, right? You want it to be the scroll stopper of the street, right? Whenever you're scrolling on Instagram, what's the one thing that pops out that makes you stop scrolling? You kind of have that type of energy and vibe in your live event booth setup, right? Or you want to, right? In person sells what algorithms can't, energy and experience. And if you can wrap that all up into one and really speak to the audiences that are attending these events, you are setting yourself up for absolute success. Let's get into booth setup though, because again, this is hot tips. And I want to make sure that we are getting into some tips here, right? And so let's talk about booth. Let's talk about that being the extension of your brand. That is what is going to draw people in, right? Your booth at an event is essentially your storefront. It needs to tell your story at a glance, right? Think of it as an Instagram algorithm. If you're at an event with a ton of tents, what is going to draw people in? What is going to be the scroll stopper, right? Vertical displays obviously show merch very well, but you want to keep like colors tight and your branding on point. Again, this booth is your storefront on wheels. It should scream your brand and your vision and your mission there at the event without it being like overstuffed. Okay. We don't want to over clutter this space. We want it to be appealing to the eye. Let people come in and breathe, touch, experience, right? Especially if you are heat printing, right? Stalls does this at events all the time. If you guys see us at trade shows popped up, sometimes we have second locations with activation set up. But one thing you'll always notice is that there's space for people to come in and touch and feel. But our presses are always running. We're always locking those down. We're always applying something. That is what gets people drawn in because they want to know what that equipment is doing. It stops people in their tracks. Somebody quote that. That is great. It stops people in their tracks, right? Show off the equipment, show off the press. People want to know what you're doing with that thing. And then once they see what they can get, that just draws even more excitement, right? So this is something that I know from experience for us popping up at events. That press locking down and pulling a fully printed shirt off in just a few seconds is that wow factor and that awesome moment for the attendees, right? So when we talk about booth setup basics, 3 takeaways. If your booth looks basic, your brand looks basic. Hate to say it, but it's the truth. Level it up. Don't just show up, show out, right? Your setup should scream, come over here without saying a word. As we mentioned earlier, we want to be able to tell our story at a glance, something that shows off the merch, but it's tightly knit and the branding is on point, right? Third, people shop with their eyes first. We have to make this count, right? And that's going to lead us right into our next section with engaging with customers, right? We want to make sure that whenever people are drawn to our booth, I from experience attending events locally, I'll be walking up to a booth and I'll be really excited to learn what's going on there. And then in an instant, depending on who is greeting me, could totally shift how I approach that brand moving forward. And I'm sure a lot of you listening or watching are exactly like that as well. We're human. We are drawn to good energy. And if it's bad energy, we're just kind of like, well, let's move on. What's next? Right. So get a conversation going, be personable, get people to want to know your brand and know who you are, right? Engage with the customers, get them to understand why you're there and why it's exciting. Why should they want to wait in line for the hat that you're printing whenever they could just go get one that's already printed? Why should they want to wait in line to customize their t-shirt? Building that excitement is what's going to draw people in. So if you guys are a little bit bashful, a little bit shy, let's engage with customers in the most positive way possible because conversation can be more profitable than a sale. If they have a good conversation with you or just the communication is good, they're going to remember that. And if they want to work with you in the future, even better, right? Word of mouth really does travel. I cannot emphasize that enough. Greet people with a smile and tell them what's going on. Some people don't get it. They don't understand why you're there and what you're doing. So explain it. Honestly, education sells. If you can just explain what's going on and get them excited about it, the more likely they're going to be sticking around and being a part of that process. I just experienced this in Manhattan Beach doing the Skechers event, right? So they had no idea what a heat press was. It's not what they're looking for, right? But we were there creating an experience and telling people what was going on, what we were doing. And so people were lining up for that because they thought it was cool. They need to know what's going on to buy in. So don't be afraid, because live pressing is honestly a magnet. It's not a gimmick. It's not a sales pitch. It's something that people see. We are creative people by nature, right? And so whenever they can be a part of that creative process, then it's letting people build their own moment with us, right? And so when you're engaging with conversation, again, your best marketing tool is going to be a heat press running hot and a smile. I promise you that. It works for us all the time. All right, next is what to sell and how to price. I think this is one of those conversations that, or it's actually probably the most commonly asked question when it comes to events. I don't know what to sell. I don't know how to price. And I genuinely believe that, like, let's start with designs. Okay. 3 to 5 designs max is what I've always held that like tried and true. Anytime I'm doing an activation, I really don't want to exceed that. Now, if you're doing like stock twill letters, like our Sin Stitch letters, that can just be like an extra add-on. But I mean like actual designs that they can come up and pick from. 3 to 5, keep that tight, because you want to make sure that people aren't getting overwhelmed with options. Make sure those designs are bold. Make sure they're readable from a few feet away. I've seen a lot of people have success with having like menus, made to order menus that are of what merch they're selling and what designs that they can pick from. And it's readable from a few feet away, because that has the most impact. It draws people in. They're like, oh, there's a menu. I can create my own shirt from scratch. That's cool. Or I can pick a couple patches to put on a hat, right? So it gets people thinking. It gets people excited to be a part of that creative process. Next up, we have pricing, right? And so you guys know your audience well. You know your location best. You know what your overhead looks like. All of that is going to be wrapped up with typically the event, right? And then you can start setting your prices of how you want your product to sell. And I think it's always best to upsell, right? If you have like a standard price for one of the hats, and then think $10 add-ons or $25 to $30 tees, $50 hoodies. If you can bundle it that way, like a 2 for $40 will always outperform $25 each, right? That's just a known industry standard. If you're labeling things like this, it gets people thinking, oh, I can get 2 of these patches for this price as opposed to just getting the hat for $25, right? And so it gets them a little bit more excited to start picking patches and spending more, right? Because then it becomes an upsell. So think about those base prices and then do your add-ons and your bundling, because it creates this event exclusive urgency, right? You can only get this at this price at this event, right? And so I'm going to give the example of Rumi Lane, who I mentioned at the beginning of the podcast. We were chatting just before, and she was like, well, I already have a pretty good base price structure with my clients. And she started out with embroidery. She was like, since it's heat pressing, should I reconsider what my pricings look like? And I'm saying, no, keep the price structure and create value in this as an add-on service. Heat presses complement embroidery beautifully, right? So especially with embroidered patches and all these emblems and dimensional things that we can do with heat presses now. And so it made her rethink her pricing structure. So whenever you are thinking about your standard structure at an event, this is an upsell. This is an opportunity to get something exclusive that they can't get with you on the website, right? So build that exclusivity and start thinking more premium add-on options with the heat press. I find that is the best way. Now, to be completely transparent, that is not how everyone sets up their price structure for printing live at events. There are several clients that they won't have the attendees pay. The person putting on the event will pay an overall price for them to come and be there and print live for their attendees. So they're selling it more as this experiential service as opposed to, hey, I want to come to your event and sell some product, right? And so they're packaging an experience together in a few different tiers. And I'm not going to name names, but I will say there is a great client out in San Diego. He does these live events, and he, at the low end, the smallest tier or the lowest end of tier is $20,000, right? So people will pay him that price to come to this event and create this experience for the attendees. So keep that in mind as well. If you want to go more of an activation route where it's this themed experience that you're creating for an event, that is a phenomenal way to do it as well. If I were going to start live printing and doing events, that is how I would have that set up. All right. Also, let's not forget back-end strategy as we are coming to close to the end of this podcast. My last point is back-end strategy. You want to make sure that whatever you have success with at the events, you are making those notes and doing it better the next time, right? What moved, what sat, what sizes ran out. You want to make sure that you have all of this back-end knowledge so you know for your next run exactly how to get it set up. That info is going to help stock smarter if you choose to stock, and then also decide what to do with leftover, right? If you're live printing, hopefully you're not sitting on a bunch of printed inventory, right? We want to make sure we're avoiding that. And so you can utilize that for your next event, right? So keep those things in mind. Brands like Threadless do this very well. They don't just appear, they follow up, they post the content, they keep the connection going, and they have all of these notes of what worked well and what didn't so they can do it better the next time, right? So a few tips to take away from there. What you learn at the booth fuels what you sell online if you choose to sell online. Every event is market research in real time. I said this earlier. You can see in real time what products are going to work and what products will not work, right? And then follow up is where buyers actually become loyal customers. So whatever your call to action is, and I'm saying this because you need to have one. I'm going to say it one more time. Have a call to action so that people know where to stay connected with you if they want to hire you for another event, or maybe they just need to buy product. Have that call to action, whether that be your Instagram page, your website, a Facebook group. Let people stay connected with you because that builds that loyal customer relationship, right? And that's what we want out of our clients. That's why we're going to events. We want a relationship. We want to be more emotional with the product that we're selling, right? That is what keeps customers coming back. Some extra quick fire tips that I'm not going to dive too deep into, but I just want to make sure that we are hitting on. Bring both cash and card readers, right? You want to make sure that if something were to die, you have a backup plan. Wear your merch, right? It's cool to have some like hanging tees on the wall behind you, but people want to see how these things fit. They want to see in real time what it looks like, how it's being worn, how they can style it, right? If you want to even take it a step further and create some type of style lookbook, that's a great idea as well. Don't forget to let people know who you are and where to find you. Business cards are great for this, but I will say business cards are great. Don't get me wrong. They serve the purpose that we need them for. But if you want to get a little bit more unique, make some stickers. People love stickers. I don't know why, but I love stickers, right? And so I've been actively making sure to include stickers as a part of our events and our activations that have the stalls information on them very lightly. And it will just say stalls or stalls.com, very faint. But it's part of a sticker that is appealing and attractive that somebody wants to slap on their phone case or a laptop. And then your branding is right there on it. So if you guys are doing business cards, great. But get unique with the call to action, how people can be top of mind with your brand. Also, QR codes are great too. For yourself and your staff, do not forget to bring snacks and water. Stay hydrated. Sometimes these events can run long, and if you are a very active booth with constant foot traffic, then that's great. That's a good problem to have. Just make sure you're setting yourself up for success whenever you are getting tired at working those long hours and running equipment. So water and snacks go a long way. Check the weather. Check the weather. Don't forget these heat presses out in the sun, 6+ hours. I think they'll be okay, but just be safe. It's nice to be under a tent for yourself. You know, we don't want to get overheated by any means, but think of that. And then most importantly, make sure you have accurate power setup, right? I run into this time and time again, even though it's ordered, sometimes the electric is not laid properly or set up properly. If you can bring your own, even better. But if you are relying on the event, just make sure that you have the accurate setup for your electric. All right, let's rapid fire through some of our tips today. So section 1, we talked about why events and festivals work. Again, it is the scroll stopper of the event, the street, wherever it is that you're popped up at, and live printing, and it builds memory, right? So when people aren't just coming up to purchase that shirt or hat, they have an experience with you, and they're more likely to remember. And you are going to be a part of that experience. So they'll remember next time they're ready to utilize you guys for their own event or for something they may need. Booth setup basics. If your booth looks basic, your brand looks basic. Show up, show out, do it right. Don't overclutter, don't overdo it, but make sure your display shows off what you're offering. And then what to sell and how to price. As we mentioned, you guys have your set baseline prices at an event. This is an upsell. This is exclusive. Don't be afraid for those $10 add-ons or bundling things for that exclusivity that they wouldn't typically get ordering from you elsewhere. I engage with your customers, guys. Nobody wants to come up and feel like they're talking to a wall. Okay. Smile, have conversation, joke around, tell them what you're doing, get them excited about the process. We are creative creatures by nature. We want to learn about what the heck is going on. I want to put my own patch on a hat. I want to pick my own design for a shirt. A lot of people want to do that. For the folks that don't, that's okay. But a lot of people are really drawn to a heat press and a fresh t-shirt coming off of there or a fresh hat coming off of there, especially if it is a emblem or patch, something dimensional that really stands out and pops off, right? And of course, don't forget those call to actions in your back end strategy. Guys, this is going to set you up for success. We are heavy in event and festival printing, and it's not slowing down anytime soon, especially here in Texas, no matter the heat. So selling at events, all in all, is a game changer, and it is real-time proof of what is working. If you're doing this already, I want to see your booth. We want to see your booth. What are you guys getting into? If you guys aren't in the Facebook group, make sure you get in there and share these ideas. We love seeing them and sharing them on our social media. So if you guys want to share in the Facebook group or tag us on Instagram, on Facebook, whatever it may be, we want to see it. We want to be involved. We want to know what's going on out there. So make sure you're tagging us. We want to see it happen. I really hope that these tips help you press with more purpose and ultimately profit at these events. Thank you guys so much for listening to the Heat Press for Profit podcast, and I will catch you next time.